Let's escape from the prison camp of ordinary games with P.O.W. Prisoners of War. P.O.W. was released in September 1989, and the title Prisoners of War makes a lot more sense for the arcade game this is based on, because that version's for 2 players, but here on the 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System, it's a 1-player game. The story from the manual. You are a codename Bart, Captain, Army Special Forces Unit M. Highly skilled in hand-to-hand combat and familiar with all types of weapons. Height 6 foot tall, weight 160 pounds. Your mission is to infiltrate GOON, or the Government of Offensive Network, which in the Japanese version was known as GOD, or the Government of Darkness, which sounds way cooler. This organization's aim is to break up the international economy and establish a worldwide smuggling ring. The plan, well, is to be captured and sent to their escape-proof armed camp, and then fight the way out, defeating their 4 leaders along the way. Here you see one of the optional hut areas that you can go into and defeat a group of enemies and collect a power-up. These power-ups include the brass knuckles, as I have collected here, also an A icon, which is armor, which allows bullets and knives to deflect off of you, or an L icon, which refills your health. There are also enemies with guns and knives that you can take from them after knocking them down. You have a punch and a kick attack, and also a cool looking jump kick. The action is very similar to beat-em-ups of the time, such as Double Dragon. Here you see the first boss, where you must knock these guys down, take a grenade, and then toss it at this helicopter. So after defeating the first boss, you basically jump off a cliff here, and you succeeded in escaping from POW camp. If you're only in the POW camp for the first level, like, what was the point of being captured if you're just, I don't get it. Anyway, here's the second level, and like the huts on the first level, you have these little armored personnel carriers you can go into to try to get power-ups. Here's that cool jump kick that this guy can do. He's very flexible. This part was a lot of problems for a 9-year-old me. The tip is to stay really close to the cranes. When you're in the water fighting these guys, you can only punch. So luckily they're not too tough, you just watch for where they're going to pop up and punch in that direction. Now for this section, you can climb up into these little, holes in the wall, and this is where you can collect power-ups in this area. And you're just fighting these diver guys. Again, just wait for them to pop up and punch them. And here I'm collecting the armor power-up. Now onto the second level boss, and this guy is the toughest boss in the game. And for a long time, I couldn't beat him. The key is to stay very close to him, because when he gets far away, he just rolls these grenades. Now, normally in this game, just the 3rd level's as far as I can make it after going through this guy. He's a real gatekeeper. But luckily I have the Game Genie that's built into my NT Mini Noir enabled, so I'm able just to tank right through him. So let's talk about the presentation. The graphics of this game I feel are very good, especially for the time. They're very colorful, and there's a lot of different environments that you're fighting through. Compared to Double Dragon, which is kind of very drab looking, this game has a very pleasing color palette. Also, the music is very up-tempo, and I found myself humming along to this. I really like the sound effects, like the bombs dropping. When you die, the weird sound it makes. Now here, this is the third level boss, and this is a staple of any beat 'em up game, is the elevator level. And I had never saw this before using the Game Genie, and it made me laugh when I saw this, because of course as a beat 'em up, it has to have an elevator stage. And if you've played beat 'em ups, you know what I'm talking about. Also, in this game, each boss has his own unique music. It's like a wrestler. It's kind of cool. I guess from now on we infiltrate the enemy's camp. Couldn't we have done that in the first place? So there are only 4 stages to this game, so we're closing in on the end here. And if there were more than 4 stages, this game would be impossible. Now there is a 21 lives code for this game that you can use, which would help out a lot. But overall, I think the gameplay is really solid in this game. It controls well. Even though you only have 3 basic attacks, they supplement that by giving you knives and guns. And in the context of being a Nintendo game, while this game is hard, I don't think it's impossible. It could be done, you just have to be patient and learn where to go and where not to go. This is obviously not where to go. So I went into this little hut thinking, okay, I'm just going to pick up a power-up, and oh no, it's the 2nd level boss. And as you can see here, this guy is even tougher to beat in a small confined area. I looked up in the manual, and this guy's name is Don James. He's the captain of the Goon Mechanized Unit, and boss enemy of the 2nd level. His height, 6'4". His weight, 176 pounds. Dang, he is skinny. Anyway, if you're curious how many times I died here, the final tally was 29 times, so I really didn't know if I was going to be able to get out of this room. Like, I died so many times. He just gets you in a rhythm of getting hit by grenades, and then you just get bounced all over the place. The key is just to keep jump kicking. When you're in the air, like, the gunfire doesn't hit you. But yeah, he's really tough. And after this point, I decided to stop exploring those little rooms because I didn't want to run into another boss character. Speaking of boss characters, here comes another one. This guy is super easy, especially after watching me struggle with that 2nd boss character. You can kind of just like get this guy up against the wall and juggle him. And you see, there you go. And then Bart gets on the radio. Is he talking about Final Fantasy VII? I thought for sure there was some kind of double cross about to happen here, but I guess whoever's at the base is just asleep on the job. Bart's like, I've escaped, and the base is like, uh-huh. You coming to pick me up? Hello? So then you're thrown into another boss battle right after you get off the radio there. And it's just like fighting the helicopter at the end of the first level. So then I guess you're walking to the pickup point, and oh no, there's that music again. It's Don James. So I had to fight this guy for a 3rd time. This time I did it pretty quickly though, so I'll spare you the gory detail. But here's the final boss. Look at this guy. He has the coolest jump. Look how high he can jump. I don't know, it's gotta be 30 or 40 feet. He's only known as the leader. And the specs from the manual on him is he is 7'8" and 231 pounds. Everyone's super skinny in this game. I don't know, they didn't know any tall people, or how much they should actually weigh, or... But anyway, when this guy hits you, I mean, it takes away 1 life bar. Unlike the 2nd area boss, old Don James, he has a grenade that's a 1-hit kill, and a gun that's a 1-hit kill. Why isn't he the final boss? I mean, this guy's way cooler, though. So he just keeps flipping around, and at this point I was just watching him jump around, so I'm not playing the game very well. But, you know, with the Game Genie, it doesn't really matter. While I was fighting him, I was thinking like, man, they should have made a sequel to this game where I can play as this guy. I like also how sometimes when he hits you, he bows. He's a very classy leader. I had to do the jump kick there. Oh, and look, here's the helicopter coming to pick me up. Perfect. Congratulations! I don't know who this lady is, but she's pumped. And roll credits. Now, for those who don't know, Japanese video game companies in the 80s and 90s, they didn't like people knowing who was actually doing the work on these games, so they would make people use nicknames in these credits. So a lot of these names are just nonsense. The reason for doing this is they didn't want other companies poaching their talent. So let's get to the rating of this game. Buy, rent, or leave it on the shelf. This game's a solid rental. I rented it many times back in the day, and this game has the distinction of knocking off Super Mario Bros. From being my favorite game. I rented this game and it made an impression on a 9-year-old, and I really liked it, and I would rent it over and over again. But I just don't think there's enough here to give it a buy rating, and that's the case with most arcade ports. They usually are very short, and they have a good idea, but it's very repetitive. So let's take a look at how magazines received this game back in the day, starting off with Video Games and Computer Entertainment, the September 1989 issue, with the Power Glove on the cover. Man, is that thing a piece of junk. Also, dinosaurs come to life on your screen. What the heck is that? And bring Las Vegas to your living room. Who doesn't want to do that? This review recants a lot of the finer points of the manual. It talks about gameplay and mechanics, but mainly it's just about the story and the government of offensive network. It says here, P.O.W. is an addicting, though frustrating fast action game. It feels and plays like a formula game, as if Mario has gotten lost on the set of Rambo First Blood Part 11? Let's move on to Electronic Gaming Monthly, issue number 3. This has got Fabio on the cover here, who was featured on the cover of Iron Sword. That game's terrible. Let's go inside and see what the review crew has to say. Well, Steve gave it an 8, and he really laments the lack of a 2-player option, which I agree with. Ed says that punch and kick lovers will have their hands full with a formidable enemy and challenging end-of-level bosses. Other than Double Dragon 2, this is the best kung fu type game this fall. And old Don with 2 N's here, he says good translation of the arcade, has above average graphics and gameplay, and the difficulty is just about right, and gave it a 7. Jim also gave it a 7, and said P.O.W. has great background graphics and a very addictive play mechanic that is similar to Double Dragon. Looking at his byline here, Jim is a great all-around gamer. Jim has beaten over 200 games for the Nintendo, Sega, and 16-bit systems. Did he really keep a tally for this? Like, I have no idea how many games I've beaten. Maybe it's more than 200. Also in this issue, there's a P.O.W. strategy guide. And this was a thing that video game magazines used to do back in the day, is put together the levels here so you could see like exactly what each screen was. And I was always super fascinated by these, and the way they did it is they would take a number of photographs and stitch them together, and you can kind of see it in this one. For our final magazine, let's take a look at Nintendo Power, November-December of 1989. It's got a game called Tetris on the cover. You may have heard of it. This was just one of their quick reviews. And you can see here it's got the GOON, Government of Offensive Network. They're really proud of that acronym. And also they compare it to Double Dragon, which, everyone else did as well. And you see the review scale here. It looks like they gave it 1-5 and then the rest are 4s. And you see how half of it's blank there? The idea was you would fill it in and give it your own rating. Did anybody out there do that back when they had these in Nintendo Power? Leave it in the comments below. I'll be back again next week with another review. I'll see you then. Peace.